Last winter, I went to Covington, Kentucky for the Acres USA EcoAG Conference. It was my kind of nerd fest. I listened to researchers sharing their newest findings, learned from farmers, and my ultimate favorite, connecting with people about compost. It's where I first learned about James White's research from Rutgers on the rhizophagy cycle. It blew my mind hearing and seeing how plant roots are actually consuming microbes. I heard practical farming techniques from John Kemph and spent time with lots of farmers. Today we are going to chat with one of these farmers, who I actually met in the elevator at the conference. Tyler Zimmerman is a third-generation farmer with 2,800 acres in North Dakota. Tyler transitioned the farm to no-till regenerative practices. He's a wealth of information about soil health and so very practical. We dive into his techniques for making vibrantly living compost and the tall task of spreading that on such big acreage. Welcome to The Composter, a podcast for compost lovers. I'm your host and fellow composter, Jane Murner. Join me in practical conversation between industry professionals and farmers with a passion for producing quality compost. We're going to dig deep into the science, technology, and art of compost production so that we as composters can help enliven the world's soils. Plastic is a huge problem in the compost industry. The OSC Packpack is a collective action campaign that works to reduce single-use packaging in the natural products industry. We inspire innovators to minimize waste while raising consciousness about the environmental impact of our choices. We empower brands, packaging manufacturers, and consumers to take action. When you take the Packpack, you pledge to make progress around circular packaging. You'll also receive a discount code to shop select products from leading natural products brands that you love. Click the link in the show notes to join the Packpack. Compost use and selection decisions involve many factors and are not one size fits all. The U.S. Composting Council's Seal of Testing Assurance, STA, program helps you make the best decisions for your application. Learn about the 3 C's of the STA program: clarity, consistency, and confidence. Learn more and enroll at www.compostingcouncil.org/STA. Enjoy the show. Tyler Zimmerman, welcome to The Composter. I'm so happy to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're in North Dakota and you have a giant farm. Can you tell us a little bit about your farm and about yourself? How long you've been farming, where you're located, and what you grow? How many acres, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we're located in the southeastern part of North Dakota. It's actually in a glacier lake bed, Lake Agassiz, Red River Valley, some of the very highly productive farmland. I'm on a third-generation farm. My grandfather started it in 1942. He bought the place. We've been here ever since. We've been predominantly in the area of corn and soybeans for a lot of years. I've started to expand out of that with my soil health journeys. So we're raising corn, soybeans, sunflower, wheat, barley, oats, field peas. We've added in, we're doing polycropping with peas, oats, and mustard. We've done interseedings in our soybeans with buckwheat to take those polycropping. So we've really expanded the variety to try to get a diversity going in our cropping system. So
that's amazing. And I saw you have pigs too. So you've got some livestock as well?
Yeah, so the livestock end of things is more of just on the hobby, a little bit on the hobby farm. We raise 15 pigs in the backyard. We're moving them around. So they're kind of a rotational pasture raising them. And we'll see how it goes. I did 15 this year. I could have sold, I think, 50 of them to my neighbors for butchers. So I think we'll see how things go next year. And I'd like to maybe make it into a little bit more than a hobby, I guess.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we met back in Kentucky at the Acres Conference a couple years ago, and you were just you were always passionate about soil health, but kind of just getting into composting. And it sounds like you've been expanding And can you tell us about why you started composting and the methods that you've been using? And like, just dive in, because like we want to know everything.
Sure. I guess when I started the composting deal, we're just looking for ways to build the soil health. How can we reduce our inputs, and how can we, not rely so heavily on synthetic fertilizers? And that comes to, we have to build our healthy soil. Healthy soil, we can't keep adding all the detriments to it to kill everything off. So in those learnings and stuff, I guess we kind of come across and learned if we can use compost extracts and get that into the soil, get that into onto our seeds, into the furrows, into the roots of our plants, we can start to grow healthier, better crops with less fertility, less synthetic fertility. And that's kind of how we started to go down that path, or why we did. And then it's kind of evolved from there. The process we're really focused on right now is using a Johnson-Su bioreactor, which we use a 250-gallon liquid shuttle that different things come in. Most people are familiar with those. And we built a structure. We fill it up with a compost, or with our ingredients, and that's all. I guess we can talk about that in a little bit. But the structure, we put, we fill it up. We put aeration tubes in there, and then we let that sit for a few days. We can pull the aeration tubes out, and we let it compost. And after it composts it's usually, I think it takes a couple, a month and a half maybe, to heat up and then start to cool down. And once it cools down, then we add the worms into it. And then we let the worms, we add about a couple hundred worms into a bin, and let the worms go to work.
I want to back up a little bit, because most of our listeners are either composters or they are smaller scale regenerative farmers, no-till farmers who are used to using a lot of compost. But can you tell us how many acres you're farming on? Because it's a very different way. We can spread 2-3 inches on our field. It's not a big deal. We can use our little tractor, and it doesn't, we can do that in a day. You couldn't do that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I farm 2,800 acres. So obviously we can't spread compost, on all of our acres. So we're actually, with this process, we're extracting it into a liquid form. And we have an extractor, a Botton Extractor, that processes it with the water and breaks it all down and gets it into that liquid form. And then we're only putting down 2 to 4 pounds of compost per acre, which we can put, so that we can put down with our at corn planting time. We carry 1,000-gallon tank, so we can go 100 acres at a time with this process, because we'll put that 4 pounds of product into 1,000 gallons of water and then go and apply it every day. So we're not every day, every morning, twice a day, however acres we're farming that day or planting that day, will mix up enough for us each day, each process.
So it takes like a month to spread even at that rate, the 2 to 4 pounds per acre, it sounds like. if you did the 100 acres at a time.
When we're planting, we'll get a couple hundred acres planted a day. So, we can get across that. The other process, because not all of my stuff I'm able to put liquid down at planting time. When we seed our cereal grains and stuff like soybeans, that planter or that air drill does not have a liquid system on it. So we will use that extract and use it as a seed inoculant. We'll inoculate all of our seeds before we plant them.
With the dry compost or with that liquid extract?
With the liquid extract, we'll get it in the liquid and then inoculate all of our seeds with that.
You got to go down to home scale, basically. I have an earthway seeder and I put my seeds in, and then I walk behind it and it lays the seed. But if they were wet, they would gum up the the earthway seeder, but yours are your system just must be totally different. You can handle the little bit of wetness on the seeds.
So basically, we'll take it from one tote of seed. We'll run it through a conveyor, and just with a sprayer, we're spraying just minutes.
Okay.
Just a hand sprayer. Take a hand sprayer. I've done it actually in my garden seeds. I'll just lay out my garden seeds, throw them in a cardboard box or whatever, and take a hand sprayer and just spray them and get them soaked up. They don't need to be, dripping wet, just so they get covered, let them dry, and then go seed them.
Oh, you do let them dry. Yeah, in between. Okay, that's the part I was missing. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to have in people's minds like the scale that you're working on, because it's so exciting to think about, like being able to inoculate 2,800 acres with compost microbes. But now I think we should actually go back. So what inputs are you using? What feedstocks for your Johnson-Su method are you adding in those bins?
Yeah. So basically what we've been using, and it's all, products from the farm, from our baling. So we got grass hay, cattails, wheat straw that we've baled up after harvest, wood chips. We had a guy that had a shelter belt taken out, and he had a bunch of it chipped. So we got a big wood chip pile. So we're using wood chips. Oat hay. We use horse manure. And then we're always going into the woods, into some native soil, and grabbing some native soil with some good, hopefully we got the right biology already in that native soil, adding that in there to kind of help maybe pre-inoculate the bin too. So
okay, so you've got the nitrogen from the horse manure, and then all those great carbon inputs with all different types of little fungi and microbes on each one different thing. And then are you layering each thing, or are you mixing it in?
Yeah, so on our scale, we're loading, 10, 12, 16 or, of these totes at a time when we built them. So we're using it's called a TMR mixer. It's a big feed wagon that my other partner and I that do a lot of these things together, Chris Wahlberg, he's a cattle rancher. So he has his feed wagon. So we load everything up into there, and that mixes it, grinds it, chops it up, kind of sizes it, everything up. And then we obviously we got to add water to that. So we keep adding water right to that mixer wagon until we get to the desired moisture, and it's got a kind of a little feed conveyor that empties that out, and we fill our totes from there.
Okay, so for people that aren't familiar with the cattle industry, I imagine this is almost like a big cement mixer where you mix the different types of grains and feeds for the cattle, and it blends it together and gets it like a consistent texture, and then comes out on a conveyor.
Yes, that would be about the most simplest form. It's just it's an open top. We can just use the payloaders. We'll just fill it, dump it right in the top, the bales, all the different ingredients right on the top, right in there. And it's got a couple of big mixers in there that just mix it and grind it up, chop it up, and then it conveyors out. Correct.
So there's just so many things. Like I can tell you've grown up farming because you're reusing all these pieces of equipment that are not meant for these things and creatively thinking of solutions on how you can make it do what you want to do. So I just love that ingenuity. It's awesome. Even the extractor, what is that originally for? Like, is it and the way you spread, is that a fertilizer spreader normally?
No. So our extractor, when we actually extract the biology into the liquid form, that is a Botton Extractor that guys are building now for these types of compost extraction, and then that's all kind of automated. It pumps the water through it, uses air pressure, a lot of air bubbles to boil or knock the biology off the soil particles, and then it kind of filters it out. So then we can just get our water, basically our dirty water coming out, and that's what we're applying,
This episode of The Composter is brought to you by Viably. As the master distributor of Comtech products in North America, Viably helps their customers to uncover the most forward-thinking solutions in the waste and recycling industry, including the proven 4-step Comtech compost process of shred, turn, screen, and separate, which produces healthy, contaminant-free compost while optimizing commercial production efficiency. Viably is also the distributor of the Turbo Separator food waste depackaging system and the HARP Renewables biodigester. Both of these revolutionary machines can help composters incorporate food scraps into their compost process, creating a more nutritious end product and the opportunity for an enhanced bottom line. You can learn more about Viably and their portfolio of compost solutions at thinkviably.com. While there, request a complimentary consultative meeting to discover how Viably can help your compost operation deliver what is possible. And now, back to the show. I think we understand the process now. It's not the layers, it's a mix going into these 250-gallon totes. And then the aeration, is it just like the classic PVC pipe with holes in it?
Yes.
That you're putting down? Okay, and then you can pull those out after, how many days you pull those?
Usually after a couple days, it kind of sets up pretty fair. You can pull them out, and then you got full aeration through from the bottom all the way to the top.
Yeah, it's neat. It just leaves these little hollow tubes. It's really cool. Okay, and then 45 days, you kind of let them just do their thing, and you add the worms at what point again?
We'll add the worms once the temperature drops back down below, I believe it's got to get down below 90 degrees. Otherwise, the worms do not like to be in there, and they will crawl out of it.
And you're doing it in a barn?
Yeah, so we can't let it freeze. So we have it actually in a heated shop throughout the winter. And then we got to keep it moist. Keep it watered every few days so it stays at a consistent moisture and kind of keep it at a consistent temperature throughout the year.
And how long have you been doing this? Because it seems like you've really scaled up. I saw like a few totes a couple of years ago, and now it's like I'm seeing tons of these totes in your Instagram feed. But yeah, how long has it been, and what are you up to in terms of production now?
Yeah, so this is basically the second year of applying it to our cropland. We got basically our third year of totes. Now because we had to make those, because it takes about a year's process for them to all break down. So we got next year's product breaking down, composting right now with the worms and everything going on right now for next year. And we're making enough compost between myself and Chris for about 5,000 acres of cropland. In 8 of those totes, we'll probably have enough product to cover our 5,000 acres.
The reason one thing that really struck me when we were chatting is you showed me where your farm was. We were together at that conference, and you're like, I just wanted to see what 2,800 acres looks like. And in your neck of the woods, that's a small farm. And you showed me on Google Maps, right? You zoomed in and we saw your farm. You showed it, and then you showed your neighbor's farm is much bigger. But the thing you didn't point out that I really noticed was how green your farm was compared to the farms around you. And I don't know when that Google shot was, but it was obvious that yours was, there was a vitality to it, even from a satellite image. It was amazing. Yeah. So what else are you noticing? I just noticed that from that, and I didn't get to talk to you about it too much, but what changes are you noticing in your soil and crop health? And you said it's been a really challenging growing season, but I bet you're still noticing some resiliencies or not.
Oh yeah. No, so, we've changed our farming methods from I guess everybody else in the area. About 10, 12 years ago, we started to go down the no-till and cover crops. And in that time frame, I learned, that's where I learned, I didn't start doing this because of soil health. I started doing it because of soil erosion and different things. And as it evolved, you learn that, it's a whole system, and there's we're trying to build this whole underground ecosystem, and build this healthy soil. And in turn, we get healthy crops, and in turn, we healthy humans through all of this, the whole circle. But with that, yes, we've added with all the cover crops, and we got green growing fields all the time where everybody else is still a black field. As soon as harvest is done, they're out there, they till the field once or twice, turn it black, and then it's black and basically lifeless until next year when they plant the seed again. We're always trying to keep a living, growing plant out there all the time to try to feed the soil, keep the biology alive. So that's why we've changed our practices of how we farm with adding all these different crops. We opens our windows to cover cropping at different times. We can be planting something here, planting something there all the time. We're always planting. The air drill actually on my farm never gets unhooked. We're got done harvesting rye last week, and we're seeding. 3 days later, we're seeding a cover crop into there again to get something growing in there all the time. So we're always trying to feed that soil, feed the biology that's there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what it's about, is like thinking about that little unseen world and keeping that habitat thriving. So it's hard for you maybe to measure what the difference of the compost is versus these other practices you're using, but it seems like all in all together, it's been a successful crop health path for you.
We're starting to see. I think we're starting to see, because it's adding that compost. We're adding a pretty minute amount in all reality, but we're starting to see, I think, better root development on corn plants. We were digging the other day and comparing. We've left some test strips without any in-furrow compost extract right at planting time, and I think we're starting to see measurable amounts of better root mass where we're applying it. So does this, do we see it at in the harvest monitor yet? I'm not sure, but we're starting to see little things that we're making progress. So, but with that, we're not using we've cut back on a lot of our fertility. So I'm comparing, no extract to extract, or, adding biology to no biology. But in all reality, we're already cutting out a lot of our synthetic inputs, with this process. So if we can just keep going, we're still using nitrogen, on our high, corn. It's a big nitrogen user, but we're starting to back down on it. We're trying to eliminate how far can we pull it down, how healthy can we get the soil, and how little nitrogen can we use and still maintain our profitability. Amazing.
And are you noticing other farmers adopting this, or are they still waiting to see how you do, or do they think you're crazy?
Yes, most of them do. But it is, since we've started since I've started coming down this road, initially the no-till and cover crops, that was, most of the guys thought I was crazy. That is starting to, at least they're asking the questions. Some of them are starting to try it on a few acres. They're starting to see some benefits there. This biological side of things, it's huge in the corporate side of things. There's every company out there is trying to make and sell a product that has biology in it. But to truly have the biology that we need that'll survive here locally, we need to build it here and put it right into our soil. I think that's the only way we're going to truly better ourselves with the biology, is to use this, because actually, let's go back to all those ingredients that I put into the compost. Every one of those is local, right from our area, come off of our fields right here. So that's all the biology that has survived. We're putting it together and just trying to get it back into the soil. We're, on our cropland where we've probably killed a lot of it off through the heavy uses of the synthetic fertilizers and chemicals and everything.
So smart to take it from some of those edge lands, those native soils. Who knows what's in there? I wasn't going to bring this up, but last night, it was my birthday yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. It was a beautiful day. I watched the sunrise and then I watched the sunset. That was the things I really wanted to do with like my loved ones. And the last thing I wanted to do was walk around when it was dark out and look for fireflies. And it's a little bit past firefly season here. This is all going to relate somehow. But so I found one, there was one firefly and that felt like a win because I was like, all right, it's like, 2 weeks past when they would normally be out. And then I found this area where there was, we had taken out a dead lilac and there was some wood chips on the ground from that. And they were glowing, like there was phosphorescence in that. And I imagine it's from a fungi, that's in the soil inoculating those wood chips. I'm going to send you a picture and I'll post a picture for this because I was just thinking about what kind of, and I don't want to, it's not magic, it's science, it's both maybe, but what is in that soil? And is it glowing underground? I'm pretty sure it is because it was like, this was just taken from underground and it was wildly amazing. But it felt like, wow, okay, so there's these things in our native soils that are fungi that are glowing magical, and we can get that into our fields. And beyond that too, there's so much life in there. So I just think you're like so wise to take that from your little native areas around the farm. And
well, yeah, because that's what we do. You go look in your tree belts where it's these trees. My yard was built in, I think the trees were planted probably in the late 20s and 30s. And, there's never been hardly anything touched in that since then. That was before fertilizers and chemicals really came out. So that soil is a lot, alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we can take basically, and that's what a lot of this is taking some of that and kind of trying to mimic that and get it back out onto our croplands that we've basically destroyed over the last 60 or 80 years with the farming practices that we've been told are the correct way to do things. So,
and that biology could support those amazing fields where the buffalo were roaming for 30,000 years. So we know it's possible. So we just got to tap back into it. I did just text you a photo of the glowing wood chips. So I don't know if you want to look at it right now, but it is. I mean, I was like, is this real?
Oh, wow. Yes, that is awesome.
Right? And that can be in our fields? How cool is that?
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. We don't know what is out there and what we're missing. Soil biology is so new to the world. And there's so much more that we got to learn. But in the same token, I think the best thing we can do right now is do these processes, any type of these composts, take this native soils, get those biology back out into our soil, and then hopefully try to reduce and learn how to not kill them off quite as fast as we've done.
The lessons are there from nature. So we just have to keep listening to nature. It's so true. It's awesome that you're on board with it, discovered it on your own. That's so cool. This is kind of a funny question, a little bit more fluffy, but somebody asked me this. They're like, please ask your interviewees, if you could have one tool on your deserted island compost farm, what would it be? It's very silly. So we have to think about that. What is the thing you pull out and use all the time?
Well, the one thing that, I'm not so much, a compost farm, let's say, but the one thing that I use on my farm, and I try to tell everybody to always have one with them, is a shovel. A shovel, you learn so much having that shovel in your tractor and your pickup. 10, 12 years ago when I started down this journey, I had a shovel and I would go out and dig. I didn't know what I was digging for. I didn't know what I was looking for, but you can start to see the different changes now. I look in it now compared to what I saw, or when I go to a conventional field versus my long-term no-till fields, you can start to see the differences in just the soil structure, how it crumbles, or how there's layers in the compaction. Is there worms? The smell, the smell of the soil, all those things, and all you need is a simple shovel that you can have in every vehicle. I literally have a spade, a nice tile spade that works good in, I think, almost every tractor that we're using every day that we're out in the fields with, so that at any given time I can stop, jump out, put the shovel in the ground, and just assess and see what's going on.
So wise. I too have found that, like, when you get to see you plant your peas and they've just started to germinate, and then you like dig in the ground, you see their roots are like 4 times bigger than the little shoot coming out the top. You're like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yes, because the root development is a great thing to go look at too when you're out in the fields. When we're going across the field, we'll jump out, dig up some roots, see what's going on. Is the one thing that we're trying to do is to build aggregation in the soil, and that's the root exudates. Dig up a root. Is there life? Is there dirt stuck to those roots? As you can see the difference, I think, in a cornfield that we used heavy nitrogen on versus a field that we didn't. I think you can see the difference in those roots. Sometimes there's the aggregation, that soil isn't stuck to those roots that are in a high synthetic situation.
Were you at the talk, James White's talk, when we were at the Acres Conference?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. That is still mind-blowing to me. I feel like I need to have him on this podcast, because that's the first time I learned that the roots are consuming the microbes in the soil. And then he showed the video of the microbes going inside the roots, and then I don't even understand. There was some kind of hyperbolic pressure buildup when they're in there, and then they almost get like sneezed back out. Some of them are consumed by the leaves. And I just understood even more deeply how important that biology around the roots is, and how the more biology there is, the stronger your root structure is going to be. It like really put it together for me seeing the video.
He is outstanding. I've actually seen him. I've watched him present 2 other times, basically on the same, his same concept there. But it's mind blowing. Most people can't believe that a plant root is actually eating microbes. So, it's just every time you're in a conference with him speaking, the people around, it's just like they're in awe. You just can't believe it. I mean, it's just a great, just a wonderful thing that he come across and learned, and they've figured it out, and it's mind blowing. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it makes this, like, just coating these seeds with microbes even more potent of like understanding why we're doing that. So it's really, really neat. Cool. All right. So we're wrapping up. I don't want to take up too much time. I know you have a million crops to get in the ground and extracts to make and pigs to feed. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know? Because you've just given us a wealth of information already. It's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. When I started doing all this, like I said, I started as no-till, and then we got into cover crops, and then we learned about soil health. And like I mentioned this, but when I do everything the same in my garden, because if I want to truly be healthy, we have to truly have healthy soil. So my garden is hopefully the healthiest ground I got, because everything that I eat out of there, I want to be eating healthy food. And if we can figure out how to, get more people on board, our food system is terrible in this country. And if we could figure out, people really have to, I don't know so much figure out, the consumer has to really take it upon themselves to truly go out there and buy quality, healthy food and learn themselves how to do it, because you're not going to find that, from a doctor. You're not going to find that from, a prescription. You got to find it from the soil and the healthy food. So I think that starts with the consumer having to go out there and better their knowledge on how to eat healthy.
And the freedom that comes with that, when you feel good and you're eating well, and then your land around you is healthy, like, to me, that's real freedom. You're not relying on doctors and medicine and a broken industrial system.
The big thing is, the farmers have to feed the world. We don't have to feed the world. Let's feed our neighbors, And that's where, my 15 pigs, if I could raise, 30 pigs, and we do, I'm expanding my asparagus patch. I got, hopefully I can get to an acre of asparagus and, and feed my community, not the state, not the city. If I can feed my community with healthy, vibrant, foods and meats and stuff, that's the goal that we should all have as a local farmer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for being on. This is so enlightening, and I know you're going to get a lot of questions. I will put a link to your Instagram in the podcast, and I know you're busy, so if you can't get back to the questions from listeners, that's totally fine. Know that they're there. Maybe in those wintry North Dakota nights, you can get back to them then. But I know you're going to generate a lot of interest, because this is really, really cool stuff that you're doing at your farm. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and your care for the land and your community. It's great.
No, thank you. And yeah, I totally, social media is a great tool out there for learning. So yeah, find me, ask me questions, follow me along, and we'll definitely get back to you. So,
all right. Thank you so much, Tyler. We'll talk soon. I'm sure. I definitely want to check in a couple of years, see how that farm's doing. So.
Yes, you bet. Thank you very much.
If you want to learn more from Tyler Zimmerman, which I do, definitely check out Tyler's Instagram and Twitter account at Zimmerman Farms. And if you have any questions or show suggestions for me, I can be reached at info@earthcarefarm.com. You can also check us out on YouTube on our Earth Care Farm channel or Instagram at earthcarefarm_RI. I have such a grateful heart for the no-till growers who produce this podcast, the sponsors, and especially you, compost-loving listeners.